Good evening. We're on page 4 of 9.6 notes, so you'll want to have those out. You want a pencil, and if you have one available, a scientific calculator. I'll be sure to write down everything that we're doing in the event that you don't have one, and then show you how you can use Google to do the remaining problems with without a scientific calculator. So we're on page 4. We'll start here with our review. Let angle H be an acute angle. Use a calculator to approximate the measure of angle H to the nearest tenth of a degree. So we're finding angle H. We want to get H by itself, so we have to do the opposite to get rid of sine. We have to use the inverse of sine. So right now we have sine of H equals 0.2. So what we're going to do is the inverse of sine is sine to the negative 1. But if I do that on the left side to get rid of sine, I have to do that on the right side. So what you're going to type in your calculator, you're going to hit shift sine. You'll get sine to the negative 1. And then you'll type in 0.2. So shift sine of 0.2. So the measure of angle H, rounded to the nearest tenth, which is 1 decimal place, is 11.5 degrees. The second one, we have tangent of H. So again, in order to get rid of tangent, we have to use the inverse of tangent. So in your calculator, you're going to hit shift tangent, and then you're going to type in shift tangent of 1. We'll get 45 degrees. So the measure of angle H is 45. The next one, we have cosine of angle H. So again, the inverse of cosine is cosine to the negative 1. So you're going to hit shift cosine, of 0.33, and we get 70.7 degrees. And then last, again, we would do shift sine. I'll let you go ahead and do this one, and I will check it tomorrow. At the bottom, we're going to find the measure of angle A, round to the nearest degree. Nearest degree means whole number. So angle A, we're given sides. You have to use a trig ratio. The Pythagorean theorem will never help you find an angle, only help you find a side. So we have to figure out which trig ratio we're going to use. It's either sine, which is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine, which is adjacent over hypotenuse, or tangent, which is opposite over adjacent. So on the first, from angle A, we know 9 is the hypotenuse, and we know 6 is adjacent. So which trig ratio deals with these two sides? It is cosine. So we're going to say cosine from angle A will equal the adjacent, which is 6, over the hypotenuse, which is 9. Once you have set this up, again, we want to solve for angle A. So we're going to use the inverse. So shift cosine. So type in your calculator, shift cosine, and you could just do 6 divided by 9. You don't have to make it into a fraction. And the measure of angle A, we said to the nearest degree, is 48 degrees. You should have gotten 48.1896, blah, blah, blah. And then the next one, we still want to solve for angle A like it told us in the directions. So we'll label our sides. 11.9 is opposite, and 10 is adjacent. So we will use tangent from angle A equals the opposite, 11.9, over the adjacent, which is 10. We're solving for the angle. We need to get rid of tangent. So shift tangent. Once again, if you don't have a fraction button, totally fine. You just do 11.9 divided by 10. Shift tangent, 11.9 divided by 10. We get, it says 49.958, blah, 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 blah. That rounds up to 50 degrees. All right, that brings us to the whole point of the lesson. Solve the right triangle, round decimal answers to the nearest tenth. So solve the right triangle means find all missing sides and angles. Find all missing sides and angles. So we know we need to find the length of DE because we don't know it. We know we need to find the measure of angle E because again we don't know it. And we know we need to find the measure of angle D. So I always recommend putting it in a box so that I can locate it very easily. We can start with DE. It is a side. We're given two sides. So to find the third side in a right triangle, we are going to use the Pythagorean theorem. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. A and B would be 20 and 21. And then we don't know C. You can keep calling it C. You can call it X. It doesn't really matter. We're going to do 20 squared plus 21 squared. I just typed it all into my calculator. You get 841 when you add them and square them. Then we will take the square root, and x equals 29. Remember that we called it x. It's not the name of x in the triangle. It's not the name of the side in the triangle. So DE is 29. Now we're going to find the measure of angle E and the measure of angle D. I always recommend to use what's given, especially number one, you could be wrong. Number two, you could have rounded. Obviously 29 was the actual number we got. But I'm still from angle E just going to use the 20 and 21. It's just the safest option. Because even if I got the third side wrong, 20 and 21 are definitely correct. So from angle E, 20 is opposite, 21 is adjacent, which means we're going to use tangent from angle E. It will equal the opposite of 20 and over the adjacent 21. We're solving for an angle. Anytime you solve for an angle, you're going to hit shift. So shift tangent in this case. So the measure of angle E, type in shift tangent of 20 over 21, we get 43.6. Remember it says round to the 10th. So 43.6 degrees. We're going to do the same thing to find the measure of angle D. Again, I always recommend using the sides that were given. So from D, 21 is opposite and 20 is adjacent. So this time, tangent from D will look like 21 over 20. Yes, we're going to get different answers. We'll hit shift tangent. Shift tangent. So shift tangent of 21 divided by 20, and we get 46. It says 0.39, but we're going to round up to the 10th, so this will be 46.4 degrees, which makes sense because these two angles should add up to 90, because those two make 90, plus 90 makes 180. So that is the first problem. The second will be a little bit less work. I'm going to end up shrinking most of this. In the end, we want to find the measure of angle B. We want to find the length of AC and the length of AB. To find the measure of angle B, it's really easy. It's this angle. You could do one of two things. You can add 90 and 51 which makes 141, and you could subtract that from 180, or you could just subtract 90 minus 51. Either way, you're going to get 39 degrees. It's 39 degrees. For AC, you can call it whatever you'd like. We can call it X right now. But we're going to set up a trig ratio because we have an angle and we have a side. So from the angle we're given, 51 degrees, 9 is opposite and X is adjacent. So we can use tangent from 51. We don't put in angle A because we actually know what angle A is. It's 51 degrees. Over the opposite, which is 9, over the adjacent, which is X. So remember from the last section, when X is on the bottom, we have to flip both sides. Once X is on the top and 9 is on the bottom, you could then multiply both sides by 9. Then we will type it into our calculator. Be sure when you type it in your calculator, you close these parentheses. And we get it says 7.28, which is going to make it round up to a 3. So that's for AC. For AB, if you want to call it a different letter so you don't get confused, you can. Either way, we're still going to write it in the list later. But still from angle A, the angle we're given the opposite, and we want to find the hypotenuse. So that would be sine from 51 equals the opposite, which is 9, over the hypotenuse, which is y. Again, y is on the bottom. We need it on the top. So we're going to flip both sides. Once 9 is on the bottom, we can multiply both sides by 9. We get 11. It says 11.58. That will round up to 11.6. You can pause if you missed anything. But the last two you're going to do as part of this grade. It's most of the grade portion. I can pull up what I would Google if I were you, if you don't have a scientific calculator. Type in scientific calculator. I do have a favorite. I would not use the Google calculator itself. My favorite is this Web 2.0 because let's say you had to type in 1 over tangent of 23. It pops up above so you can kind of see what that looks like, just like in your regular calculator. And then to shift, you have to hit second. Sorry, I unclicked it. You have to hit second, right? Oh, no, you don't have to click second. Let's see. Yep, you hit second, sorry. Technically, we call this arc sine. I know it looks weird, but if you look right here, it shows you it's sine raised to the -1. It's the same thing. And if that wasn't enough proof for you, it'll pop up like this. So I know it looks weird, but hit second if you need to. Just like on your regular calculator, on this calculator, you'd hit second. I will see you guys tomorrow.